Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Patrons video where today I'm checking out a track sent through from Jacob Good as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on YouTube, a song from Vava, titled Life's a Struggle. Apparently this is from the wrap of China 2017 finals qualification, so I am unsure if it will actually be visible on YouTube, but I suppose if because Jacob's uploaded their version of this as well, I should note. They've got the English lyrics and closed captions, so it'd be good to check it out. Thanks to Jacob for that, but we're going to listen through this track from start till finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go. What have we got? Nice final crackle there as well with the piano line. Bit of detuning to it, bit of warping, but that's cool.
1995年，我来到这个世界，在此我想给我的母亲最真诚的致谢。为了把我养大，放弃了她的事业，可是我却让她痛苦在每个日夜。外婆她告诉我，我的父亲早已死去，当时的情景我还记得，房间一片死寂。至今我已经不想再去回忆，还有我那些素未谋面哥哥姐姐弟弟。Back to school， 我不听话，让老师同学害怕，他们互相说悄悄话，我把罪恶都犯下。这画面一刹那乍现，像一只大雁，我怕见到曾经犯下错的那面，把力气带进学校，逃学我找到诀窍，警察把我找到，妈妈哭着说我还年少。那时我觉得所有人都跟我作对，我在我自己的世界尽情的落坠。离家出走的我那时还是未满15，我大家逃学，我成为了全家人的耻辱。我讨厌约束，讨厌被禁锢，用最极端的方法让伤害过我的人记住。你是否有时觉得命运它对你不公，但有时又会学着在沉重里找轻松。我仰望星空，把过去冰封，我发誓绝不会像他们一样过得那么平庸。
Okay.
Let's struggle， 日子还要过，平常喜怒哀乐之后又是数不清的 time of every day。有多少问题要去面对，有多少夜痛苦烦恼着你无法入睡。Let's struggle， 日子还要过，平常喜怒哀乐之后又是数不清的 time of every day。有多少问题要去面对，有多少夜痛苦烦恼着你无法入睡。
It's just so powerful when the drums come in as well with the vocals going up like that.
谁都一样会生老病死，就像被遗忘，被藏进信纸。树叶在流浪，风还没静止，你我都一样，想永远名留青史。从小我就知道脚要踩地，天在头顶，佛在上方俯瞰众生，就像蝼蚁。不用害怕，黑暗战胜不了光，你保持真实就会得到爱的表彰。我想要什么，我会通过努力独立去争，不是像个孩子在我身后狂喷。想要梦想的路永远亮着绿灯，就算跪着也要朝着目标狂奔。我才不管你有什么看法，当我需要精神救赎，你又在哪？太多必要交集，在不停交替着提醒我，这虚伪面具下的脸都太假。梦中小路，我不会停下脚步，对上成功，可成功毕竟占少数。我慢慢从横冲直撞到变老土，我在肮脏的泥泞里面找宝物。没经历苦难怎么叫做生活？每一次分岔口我都仔细跟你说，现在我站在这里，太阳它照常升起，不管遇到什么，笑着面对才是真理。Let's struggle， 日子还要过，平常喜怒哀乐之后又是数不清的 time every day。有多少问题要去面对，有多少夜痛苦烦恼着你无法入睡。Come on，Let's struggle， 日子还要过，平常喜怒哀乐之后又是数不清的 time every day。有多少问题要去面对，有多少夜痛苦烦恼着你无法入睡。Let's struggle， 日子还要过，平常喜怒哀乐之后又是数不清的 troubles every day。你们会唱吗？夜痛苦烦恼着你无法入睡。Come on，Let's struggle， 数不清的 troubles every day。有多少夜痛苦烦恼着你无法入睡。
爱奇艺乐
I mean, I think that's literally the epitome of the situation where the understanding the lyrics makes a completely different experience. Not understanding the language, I'm not sure whether it was Mandarin or Cantonese. Not understanding that language fluently, for me, if I didn't have the lyrics, I wouldn't know what was going on. So I'd have to base my review on how it sounded, how the rhythm and cadence of it worked there. And I could tell from the way that it was expressed that there was some strain or struggle that we're going through. But, you know, understanding the story, I think natively especially, is that little bit of icing on the cake. But we're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Vava titled Life's a Struggle. In this section, I'm going to provide an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I mean, thanks again to Jacob for putting the translations up on the video there. It seems to me to be about two things. In the first verse, it's discussing Vava and, you know, not having a father in their life, the mother having to sort of give up their sort of career to take care of her, the struggles that they went through in school, life's a struggle. And then the second verse is more, I think, talking about the people that say success is for everyone, but in reality, actually, no, it's not. There's a few, and there's like a desire for authenticity, and there's a lot of hypocrites who need to take their masks off and stuff like that. And I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. The reaction from the crowd in this kind of put me in a position where I was kind of wondering if this is not something that musicians are discussing. Like, is it more that the subject matter is surprising for people to hear? Is it not usually as deep when people talk about the stuff on these shows? Are they afraid of that? Or is it simply that the specific subject matter is just so relatable to people, or is it both? I mean, either way, I think as much as it's sort of a generic way of sort of approaching it on my part, it is clearly accessible. You can hear the expression from the vocalist Vava. There is some softness in their voice sometimes, in her voice sometimes near the end, but for a lot of the time, there's an inherent frustration that is voiced throughout. And I feel like that tension is palpable. The music itself, outside of the vocals, does enough to provide a more sort of like a competent foundation for the story to be told on, but it isn't actually terribly opinionated. It's more sort of neutral. I think that just provides more space for Vava to be able to sort of speak their truth on it and be the total focal point of the track. I think in terms of the actual vocal technique displayed there, we have a really sort of astute understanding of rhythm. The lines come through really neatly. The flow is solid and smooth. Because of the way that the vocals were produced in terms of the live show itself, there's very little dynamic range from the vocalists themselves. Even when they're quiet, it's the same loudness, but that's because it was made for broadcast, and that's just a normal thing. I feel like it would be a different listening experience if it was an album recording. And honestly, with the quality that I've heard today, I might go check that out on my own time. Just they've got a lot of charisma on stage. They know how to behave in a way that connects to what they're trying to communicate. And they also included the crowds in different bits to get them to sing along with it, and everyone else was kind of shouting out the lyrics. And I think at the end of the day, when you are a vocalist who has managed to get the crowd involved and on your side, kind of vibing along to it, you've effectively succeeded as a performer, which is the kind of main sort of point of these shows, isn't it? It's to show what you're made of and to put on it, or rather, you know, like just to be the star of the show. So I dig that. I think that was very, very good. Outside of the vocal performance, which was really comfortable, even though you could tell they were going through stuff emotionally, they didn't seem like they were straining in terms of their proficiency or capacity to be able to do what they needed to do on stage. The track itself, at 3 minutes 50, is quite well fleshed out. It's, again, centered around the storytelling with a couple of verses and then the chorus sections, and you've got that outro section there where they kind of reiterate on some of the messaging from before, getting everyone else involved in it because they'll know the words by that state. And the start of the track is actually with, again, that vinyl crackling, the warping of the keys with the 16th note, sort of like arpeggios and melodies there. It's just very pretty sounding. There's an inherent sadness to the minor leaning of those notes within the chord progressions that are present, which makes sense considering what we're talking about here. But it's also not too opinionated at the same time. You can do a lot with it. You can have a sense of flexibility because of the 16ths being a faster rhythm. You can have a bit of bounciness, like when the actual full-on chorus or hook came along, we had the bass come in and it had a nice sort of boisterous kind of bit of body to it that made it sort of thump, and the drums, kicks, and snares that we had with the kind of trappy kind of percussive elements as well. It all made it seem very sort of contemporary, but at the same time, because there were some 90s hip hop elements or samples there, that kind of tied the again 1990s and 2010s together, which was kind of neat. You just had those different drum sounds kind of making it kind of almost seem like there was a connection between 1995 and 2017. I appreciate that the drums are not there the entire time, that they're mainly there in those hook sections. It's just such an easy way to distinguish or segment between verse and chorus. Things go down when we're a bit more sort of gentle with the storytelling. Things go back up again when we want people to nod their heads and bounce around to it. Like, it's the little things as well, like the moments of pause where, like, before the first verse came in, you had that synth rise at that point of tension there, that tremor that was going on there. It was kind of a strange decision before you understood what was going on with the performance, but then that suspense is kind of what allows a song experience to arguably more exciting. You also have these strings in the chorus section, especially in that later stage there around the 2-minute 40 mark, where like they kind of bump, 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 bump. They decorate those existing progressions and provide this kind of drama to it there. It makes it more of a cinematic experience. It sounds bigger because of how they're put on the sides, and the frequency spectrum as well filled up. I think there's also some additional sort of like bass or guitar parts in that like 2-minute 06 mark or on a second verse there, which is nice, sort of bit of extra development there to not take the listener's attention for granted as you go through the piece. And there's a bit of extra kind of activity in terms of different rhythms as well. We're not as sort of afraid of having a different rhythm than the piano and the vocals there, having a bit more melody there to sort of like make it a bit more sort of accentuated. I do feel like kind of having everything come out for that last part to allow more space for the crowd to sing along also was really good. The kind of call and response and the chemistry between Vava and the crowd was fantastic. I think we also, just to note on the percussion, because I know I'm going backwards and forwards between instruments, there was just actually quite a lot to sort of take in and sort of process. There are some orchestral drums that you have in some of those fill sections in the middle of those hook beats. And I just thought that kind of combining some trap, some orchestral, and some sort of like more contemporary, like old school hip hop elements was just a fun idea there. So the percussion and vocals were probably my highlights from today, but all the other ingredients within the mix were pretty well done as well. And so ultimately I feel like things are well connected. The track flies by again at 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes 51, right within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. I don't think there's a note out of place. Thematically, the track is minor leaning because, yeah, of course it is. You're not going to have a major key oriented track with this kind of subject matter, so in that way it's collected. There's nothing outside the diatonics really. We're not trying to be too edgy or spicy with the note choices. And yeah, you just finish the track feeling like it's a very sort of safe composition that again allows Vava to do more on top to sort of make herself known. Finally, the studio recording, mixing and mastering just sounds great to me. And since that like the vocals are nice and present, you can hear that it's a live performance from like the exasperation in certain parts of Vava's performance on the microphone. The different bass, sort of drum, guitar, key, sort of string parts there are nicely heard within the stereo field. Nice, music surrounds you in the headphones, left and right sides of the stereo field. There's no weird resonances in the frequency spectrum either. Like it's a tight mix, like it's glued well, but then of course, again, it's for broadcast, so they don't allow a massive amount of dynamic range there. I still think it was commercial grade, and it's nice and loud. Bit of pumping. There's a bit of pumping with the side chaining of kicks, bus compression, and limiting was handled. No applicable constructive critique. Again, just from my final general listener's perspective, it is one of those situations where having the lyrics does further help you to appreciate the track. Although what I will note is, if I did not know what the song was like, I would still enjoy it. And I think that this is going to potentially be a bit controversial, especially to people who, when they listen to music, are very lyric oriented. As a music reviewer, I think what I've found very recently is that the point of success for the track is when everything connects. And so that doesn't necessarily even need to be like a language thing, in the sense that as long as I could hear that the sounds and the phrasing and the sequencing and the consonants and like the actual texture and tone of the performance, as long as I can hear that they make sense together, that still to me is a successful experience and I can enjoy it. I think on the other side of that, I found that when I don't enjoy the sound of it, it doesn't matter whether it's in English or a language I don't understand. I just don't like it. So I just feel that I put that forward, and I'm gonna probably be a bit more kind of like mindful of how I talk about the vocals and lyrics in future, because that's something I want to sort of like figure out an anchor point on. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching my review of this track. It's live performance from Vava titled Life's a Struggle, again from the Rapper China 2017 finals qualification. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Patrons video. Spiderhands out.